Not all cruise cabins are created equal. Some look fine when you're booking them, but once you're on board, it might not be all that it's cut out to be. After more than 50 cruises, I've learned the hard way on which cabins you'll want to avoid, and a few of these might surprise you. Hey y'all, it's Abby. Let's start with one of the biggest complaints I hear from cruisers: cabins right below the pool deck. They sound convenient, they're close to the food and the action, but what you don't see on the booking page is the constant noise. Lounge chairs scraping at sunrise, music at night, heavy foot traffic all day. And also during the night, they're probably going to be rolling around lots of carts and a lot of maintenance going on. So a better choice is going to be pick something 1 or 2 decks lower, midship still. You'll still want to be close enough to the fun, but you won't be woken up at 6 a.m. by all of the moving traffic. Another one to be careful with: cabins right by the elevators or the crew service doors. On paper, it seems great, you have easy access to everything, but in reality, you're gonna hear conversations, probably kids running through the halls, and sometimes you're gonna have those carts rolling through at odd hours. I remember I was on a ship and I kept hearing parts of like the galley when they were rolling all of the carts throughout like the service areas, and that kept me up quite a bit. A better choice is to book a cabin a few doors down from the elevators and these service doors. You'll keep the convenience without dealing with all the noise. Now let's talk about guarantee cabins. These can be tempting because they're often the cheapest option. You book the category and the cruise line assigns your room for you. But here's the catch: you'll usually end up with whatever's left, and if everyone is making good choices, that might not leave you with the best pickings. That might mean an obstructed view, a noisy location, or a cabin you probably would not have picked yourself. If budget is tight, book the lowest category you'd actually be happy with, but choose the location yourself. That way you don't risk getting stuck somewhere you'll regret. Now, hey, it's pretty much gonna be a hit or miss. You might get a really great cabin, you might not, but if you don't want to take that risk, I would suggest doing that tip. Now, balconies are amazing unless you get an obstructed view like we just mentioned. Sometimes a lifeboat or equipment takes up most of your view, and while you technically have a balcony, it doesn't really feel like it. They tend to be cheaper, but if you've been dreaming of sitting outside with an ocean view, or you're going through a area like Alaska or the fjords of Norway, that can absolutely be a disappointment. The better choice is to go with a standard ocean view or even an inside cabin at a similar price if it means avoiding the obstructed view, or spend a little bit extra for a balcony with a clear view so you actually get the experience you're paying for. I really highly recommend that, especially if you're going on those scenic cruises like Alaska or Norway. Cabins at the very front or back of the ship have less traffic and are sometimes cheaper. They're also where you'll probably feel the most motion. If you're prone to seasickness, these locations can be tough. Add in the long walks to dining and entertainment, and they're not always worth the savings. Now, it also depends on how far up or down you are. I have found that if I'm necessarily at the very front or the back of the ship on a lower deck, I'll sometimes hear a lot of the engines and parts of the ship that, are running. So that's another thing to take into consideration. If you are going to stick on a lower deck, I would recommend midship. It is also going to be the most stable part of the ship and the easiest to get around. One cabin type a lot of people don't think about is connecting rooms. If you're not using the extra space with family or friends, the connecting door can potentially be a nightmare. They don't block sound very well, so you'll probably hear neighbors' conversations, alarms, maybe even their TV shows. A standard cabin with solid walls on both sides is going to be a better choice. And if you're traveling with family, you can also just book 2 rooms next to each other rather than relying on the connecting door. Now, I briefly mentioned it, but another sneaky one is cabins on the lower decks at the very front of the ship. On port mornings when the anchor drops, you'll hear it and you'll feel it, sometimes before sunrise, before you even want to wake up for your excursion. Add the extra motion at the front, and it's not the most peaceful wake up that you were hoping for. Look for the mid cabins on a lower deck. You'll avoid that anchor noise, but still get a smooth, quiet ride. But like I mentioned, I'd probably go for midship if you're going on those lower decks. Cabins in the wrong location can make your cruise not so great, but you know what can really ruin your vacation? Getting sick on board with no insurance. I've been there. 3 times actually. Flu, food poisoning, you name it. Without coverage, I would have been out thousands of dollars. That's why I've partnered with Safety Wing. They provide travel medical insurance that's perfect for cruises and vacations. It covers you both on the ship and in international ports, with $0 deductible and up to $250,000 in medical coverage for unexpected illness or injury. It also can help cover you when there are certain unexpected travel issues as well, such as lost luggage. What I really love is how flexible it is. It starts at just a few dollars a day. It works in over 180 countries, and you can even buy it after your trip has started. If you're traveling as a family, kids under 10 are even included for free with each adult on certain plans, which is huge peace of mind for parents. They've also got optional add-ons like electronic theft and adventure sports, which is great if you're doing excursions. So while you're choosing your cabin wisely, make sure you're also protecting yourself. Check the link in the description to learn more, plug in your travel dates, and get yourself covered. Now, let's get back to the list of cabins to avoid. Some people may or may not like this tip, but some newer ships have cabins overlooking, say, the Royal Promenade or entertainment venues. They look fun. You get a view of the action, but you'll also hear parades, music, and late night events right in your room. If you want to be close to the action, book a few decks higher above the promenade or pick an interior cabin away from the venues for better sleep. The biggest tip I have for you when you're thinking about booking cabins is just look at the general ship plan. Deck plans show you what's above you, but don't forget to check what's below. If you're above a nightclub, theater, or even the galley, you're gonna hear that late night music or the clattering dishes. The safest bet is to sandwich yourself between 2 passenger decks. That way you avoid noise from venues above and below. Basically, all I'm saying is do a little bit of research. Doing that research before your vacation, even just 5 minutes of looking at the deck plans, can really make your vacation a whole lot better. Now granted, you can't control other people. You might just end up with someone who's a little bit noisy anyways. And at least you did your research and your due diligence. Me personally, my favorite cabin is going to be somewhere located on deck 7, 8, or 9. I mean, it depends on the ship, but probably around decks 7 through 9. I actually prefer the aft, but I'll usually pick somewhere between mid and aft because I feel like a lot of ships have a lot of stuff more towards the aft that at least I'm a little bit more interested in. As well, I tend to actually prefer port side because you get to wake up and look at the beautiful destinations that you're arriving in. And it also makes it pretty easy for getting on and off the ship. So those are going to be the tips that I recommend when booking a cabin, the things you should look for and avoid, plus some better alternatives so you can make the most of your trip. If this video was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more cruise tips and reviews. Thank you to all of the Patreon and YouTube members who support the channel, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bon voyage!